The stars looked cold and distant from the bridge of the UES Defiant. Captain Eliza Harrington stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the main screen. Her ship led a fleet of 50 vessels, the entire space defense force of humanity. Behind her, crew members worked at their stations, their voices low and focused. "Alien fleet detected at the edge of Jupiter's orbit, Captain," said Lieutenant Olivia Wilson. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing control panel. "Our sensors count over 10,000 ships." Captain Harrington's expression didn't change, but she took a slow, deep breath. "Show me." The main screen changed to display a vast armada. The alien ships looked like giant metal insects, their hulls covered in sharp angles and glowing blue lights. Commander William Nash stepped closer to the captain. His usually calm face showed worry. "Those are Zygarian ships. Intelligence was right." "How long until they reach Earth?" asked Harrington. "At their current speed, 18 hours, replied Lieutenant Wilson. Harrington nodded. "Send the greeting. Messages planned. Let's see if they're willing to talk." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Minutes passed before Lieutenant Wilson spoke again. "Captain, we're receiving a response. They want to establish visual communication." "On screen," ordered Harrington. The image of a tall reptilian creature appeared. Its skin was greenish-gray, with patches of blue scales. 4 yellow eyes blinked at different times as it looked at the humans. "I am Supreme Commander Vrax of the Zygarian Confederation," the alien said, in a deep voice. "We have studied your transmissions and learned your language. We come to claim this solar system for our empire." Captain Harrington stepped forward. "I am Captain Eliza Harrington of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other species, but we will defend our home." The alien made a strange sound, something between a hiss and a laugh. "Defend? With what?" The camera on the alien ship pulled back to show more Zygarians, all looking at screens showing the human fleet. "Is this truly all your forces?" asked Vrax. 50 ships against our 10,000? The other Zygarians began making the same laughing sound. Harrington's face remained calm. "Numbers aren't everything, Commander Vrax." "In war, little human, numbers are most things," said Vrax. "Your species has been traveling in space for less than 200 years. The Zygarian Confederation has ruled thousands of worlds for millennia. Your tiny fleet is... What is your Earth word?" "Ah, yes, cute." The Zygarians laughed again, louder this time. "We give you 24 hours to surrender," continued Vrax. "If you resist, we will destroy your fleet and then your cities. If you surrender now, we will allow your people to live as workers in our empire." The screen went dark. Commander Nash looked at Captain Harrington. "They took the bait, just like Admiral Caldwell predicted." Harrington allowed herself a small smile. "Species that judge power by size are so predictable. Contact UEDF Command and tell them Operation Trojan Horse is ready to begin." Nash nodded and walked to the communications station. Harrington turned to address the entire bridge crew. "All of you know what's at stake today. The Zygarians think our fleet is small because we're weak. They don't understand that humanity chose quality over quantity. Each of our ships carries technology they can't imagine." Deep beneath the icy surface of Europa, Jupiter's moon, Director Samantha Wells stood in a massive underground control room. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations, monitoring screens that covered the walls. The room hummed with energy and purpose. Chief Engineer Alan Rodriguez approached her with a tablet. "Director, we've received the signal from the Defiant. Captain Harrington reports that the Zygarians reacted exactly as expected." Wells nodded. "They always do. Species that build huge fleets never understand species that invest in different technologies." She looked at the main screen showing a 3D map of the solar system. The Zygarian fleet appeared as a red cloud moving toward Earth. "Are the nanite platforms ready?" "Yes, Director," said Rodriguez. "All 50 ships carry full loads, and the backup systems on Mars and Titan are standing by." Wells touched a button on her tablet, opening a channel to all stations. "This is Director Wells. Operation Trojan Horse is now active. I want all systems at full capacity. The Zygarians have given humanity 24 hours before they attack. We'll be ready in 12. Back on the Defiant, Captain Harrington called a meeting with her senior officers in the ship's conference room. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls. The Zygarians believe they're dealing with a primitive species making its first steps into space, she explained. Their intelligence on Earth is decades old. They don't know about our technological advances or our hidden facilities. Lieutenant Commander Gregory Bell, the ship's science officer, pointed to an image of tiny machines on one screen. These nanites are our real fleet. Each one is smaller than a human cell, but they can break down any material and use it to make more of themselves. One of our ships carries enough nanites to dismantle 100 Zygarian vessels. Commander Nash looked concerned. But getting them onto the alien ships won't be easy. The Zygarians might have primitive ideas about fleet strength, but their shields are still powerful. That's why we're not going to attack them, said Harrington. We're going to let them attack us. Hours passed as the human fleet prepared. Engineers checked the special delivery systems hidden within each ship's structure. Tactical officers ran simulations of the coming battle. Medical teams prepared for casualties. On the Zygarian command ship, Supreme Commander Vrax watched the human fleet. With growing impatience, they haven't retreated. Do they truly believe they can fight us? His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krell, studied the sensor readings. Perhaps they plan to surrender, Supreme Commander. Their ships have made no aggressive moves. No, said Vrax. I saw determination in the human captain's eyes. They will fight, and they will lose. Their fleet is too small to pose any real threat. Little did the Zygarians know that the small human fleet was exactly why they should be afraid. Very afraid. The 12-hour mark arrived. Captain Harrington stood on the bridge of the Defiant watching the tactical display. The Zygarian fleet had spread out into attack formation, a massive wall of ships stretching across space. Status of nanite delivery. Systems? She asked. Lieutenant Wilson checked her console. All systems ready, Captain. Each ship reports green status. Commander Nash approached Harrington, speaking quietly. The crew is nervous. Most of them have never seen real combat. None of us have seen combat like this, said Harrington. But we've trained for it. They know what to do. The communications officer called out, Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zygarian command ship. On screen, ordered Harrington. Supreme. Commander Vrax appeared again. His yellow eyes seemed to glow with excitement. Your time is up, humans. Have you decided to surrender? Captain Harrington straightened her back. The people of Earth will never surrender to threats, Commander. Vrax, we choose to remain free. Vrax made a sharp hissing sound. Then you choose death. Your tiny fleet cannot stand against our might. We will crush you and then take your planet. You're welcome to try, replied Harrington calmly. The screen went dark. Commander Nash looked at the tactical display. They're moving into attack position. All ships prepare for combat, ordered Harrington. Execute scatter pattern Delta on my mark. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Zygarian weapons powering up, reported Lieutenant Wilson. They're targeting our formation. Mark, said Harrington. The 50 human ships suddenly accelerated, in different directions. The neat formation broke apart as each vessel followed its own escape route. On the Zygarian command ship, Vrax watched with confusion. What are they doing? Their formation is falling apart. Sub-Commander Krell studied the display. Perhaps they are retreating, Supreme Commander. No, said Vrax. They're trying to confuse our targeting systems. A basic tactic. Open fire on the closest vessels. Show them the power of the Confederation. Bright energy beams shot out from hundreds of Zygarian ships. 3 human vessels couldn't evade in time. They exploded in brilliant flashes of light. On the Defiant, the bridge shook as a near miss sent energy waves through the ship's shields. 3 ships lost, reported Commander Nash, his voice tight with emotion. Dakota, Washington, and Arizona destroyed. Captain Harrington's eyes hardened. They died so others might live. All remaining ships deploy payloads now. Throughout the scattered human fleet, small hatches opened on the hulls of each ship. Thousands of tiny projectiles shot into space. They were too small to register as weapons on Zagarian sensors, each no bigger than an old Earth torpedo but carrying a very different kind of weapon. "Payloads deployed," reported Lieutenant Wilson. "Nanite delivery at 92% and counting." "Now we wait," said Harrington. "All ships continue evasive maneuvers. Stay alive." The tiny projectiles drifted toward the massive Zagarian fleet. Some were hit by stray fire and destroyed, but most reached their targets, the hulls of alien ships. On contact, they didn't explode. Instead, they melted into the metal, releasing their microscopic cargo. Deep beneath Europa's surface, Director Wells watched the battle through data feeds. The massive screens showed the positions of all ships and tracked the nanite swarms. "Delivery. Phase complete," announced Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "Nanites are activating now." Wells nodded. "How long until we see results?" 3 to 5 minutes, replied Rodriguez. "The first generation of nanites needs to establish and begin replication." In space, the battle continued. The human ships darted and weaved through the Zygarian formation, taking hits but avoiding destruction. 6 more human vessels were destroyed. Their crews lost. On the Defiant, Commander Nash reported, "We've lost 9 ships total. The Zygarians are pressing their attack." Captain Harrington checked the time. "Hold on just a little longer. Keep them focused on us." On a Zygarian destroyer at the edge of their formation, a crew member noticed something strange on his monitor. "Commander, I'm detecting an unusual power fluctuation in Section 12. The ship's commander looked annoyed. "Run a diagnostic. We're in the middle of battle." "I did, sir, but the diagnostic systems are not responding," said the crew member. His voice became more urgent. "Now Sections 11 and 13 are reporting similar issues." Before the commander could reply, the lights on the bridge flickered. Warning alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "What is happening?" demanded the commander. "Sir," said another officer, panic in his voice, "the hull in Section 12 is... It's disappearing!" Similar scenes played out across dozens of Zygarian ships. Systems failed. Hull sections vanished. Crew members watched in horror as solid metal turned to dust before their eyes. On the Zygarian command ship, reports flooded in from across the fleet. "Supreme Commander," said Subcommander Krell, "we've lost contact with 37 ships in the past minute." "Impossible," snapped Vrax. "What weapons are the humans using?" "Unknown, sir. Ships report hull breaches, but no explosions. No energy weapons detected. The number of lost ships climbed rapidly. 100, 300, 700. On the Defiant, the crew watched their displays with a mixture of awe and horror. "Nanites have achieved critical mass," reported Lieutenant Commander Bell, the science officer. "They're spreading from ship to ship through debris fields." Commander Nash looked grim. "The Zygarians are packed so tightly that each destroyed ship is spreading nanites to nearby vessels. Their numbers are working against them now," said Captain Harrington quietly. "Just as we planned." On her screen, she could see the Zygarian fleet changing. Ships were breaking apart, not in violent explosions but in strange, silent disintegration. Metal turned to dust. Energy cores went dark. The massive fleet was being eaten alive from the inside. Supreme Commander Vrax watched in horror as his grand armada fell apart around him. "What is this? What kind of weapon dissolves metal?" He turned to his communications officer. "Order all ships to retreat immediately. Get us away from whatever this is." But it was too late. The nanites had already spread too far, infecting ship after ship. As Vrax gave orders, he felt a strange vibration under his feet. The floor of his command center had begun to shimmer with a gray dust. The battle that was supposed to last days was nearly over in hours. Humanity's tiny fleet had unleashed something the Zygarians had never imagined. A weapon that turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Supreme Commander Vrax watched in horror as the deck beneath his feet began to dissolve. Fine gray powder spread across the command center floor. "Evacuate to the emergency craft," he shouted. "Now!" His officers rushed to obey. Alarms blared throughout the massive ship as the strange destruction spread. Sub-Commander Krell grabbed a sample container and scooped up some of the gray dust. We need to understand what's happening, Supreme Commander. Vrax nodded as they ran through the corridors. Crew members pushed past them in panic. The walls around them showed signs of the same decay. Smooth metal turning rough, then crumbling into dust. How many ships remain functional? Vrax asked as they reached the emergency bay. Krell checked his portable scanner. Less than 2,000, Supreme Commander. We've lost over 8,000 vessels in 30 minutes. Impossible, whispered Vrax. No weapon he knew could cause such destruction so quickly. They boarded a small ship designed to escape the destruction of the main vessel. As they launched, Vrax looked back through the viewport. His mighty command ship, once gleaming and powerful, now resembled a half-eaten fruit. Entire sections had simply vanished. Take us to a safe distance, he ordered, and find me answers. On the UES Defiant, Captain Harrington and her crew watched the destruction of the Zagarian fleet with mixed emotions. Victory was theirs, but the scale of destruction was sobering. Nanite spread has exceeded all projections, reported Lieutenant Commander Bell. The Zygarians packed their ships so closely that the nanites spread even faster than we predicted. Commander Nash studied the tactical display. Only about 2,000 Zygarian ships remain intact and they're retreating to the outer system. Good, said Harrington. Contact our remaining ships. How many did we lose? Lieutenant Wilson checked the reports. 12 ships destroyed, Captain. 38 remain operational. Harrington closed her eyes briefly, thinking of the lost crews. Send our condolences to their families. They died protecting Earth. She turned to Lieutenant Commander Bell. What about the nanites? Can we control them now? Bell nodded. Yes, Captain. Once the nanites reach a certain density, they become part of our network. We can send the deactivation signal whenever Director Wells gives the order. Contact Europa Base, ordered Harrington. Tell Director Wells we recommend deactivation before the nanites spread beyond the target ships. Deep beneath Europa's surface, Director Wells received the message from the Defiant. The control room buzzed with activity as technicians tracked the nanite swarms. Captain Harrington recommends deactivation, reported a communications officer. Wells nodded. Agreed. The Zygarians have learned their lesson. We don't need to destroy their entire fleet. She turned to Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Prepare the shutdown signal. Rodriguez typed commands into his console. Signal ready, Director. Send it, ordered Wells. Throughout space, the microscopic machines received the coded signal. Their programming shifted from replication to dormancy. The destruction of the Zygarian ships slowed, then stopped. In his emergency vessel, Supreme Commander Vrax received news that the mysterious destruction had ceased. The humans must control this weapon, he said to Krell. That means we can negotiate with them. Krell looked skeptical. Negotiate? After we threatened their world? Vrax's expression hardened. We have no choice. Their weapon could destroy our entire civilization. We must learn what it is and how to defend against it. The preliminary analysis of the gray dust is complete, said one of Vrax's scientists. It contains microscopic machines, billions of them. They appear to break down materials at the molecular level. Nanomachines? Asked Vrax. The humans weaponized nanomachines? The scientist nodded. Advanced ones. They reproduce using the, materials they consume. Vrax fell silent, thinking deeply. The Zygarians had always believed that military strength came from numbers. More ships, more weapons, more soldiers. They had never invested in nanomachine technology, considering it useful only for medicine and construction. Send a message to the human fleet, he finally said. Request to speak with their leader. On the Defiant, Captain Harrington received the message. It seems the Zygarians want to talk now. I bet they do, said Commander Nash with a grim smile. Open. A channel, ordered Harrington. Supreme Commander Vrax appeared on screen. His earlier arrogance was gone. Captain Harrington, I request a ceasefire and diplomatic talks. Our weapon has already been deactivated, Commander Vrax, replied Harrington. We could have destroyed your entire fleet, but that's not our way. You've demonstrated your power, said Vrax. The Zagarian Confederation acknowledges the strength of humanity. We wish to establish peaceful relations. Peace is always our preference, said Harrington. But know this. If you or any other species threatens Earth again, our response will be the same. We build small fleets not because we're weak, but because we don't need large ones. I understand now, said Vrax. Your ships were merely delivery systems for your true weapon. Harrington nodded. We will send coordinates for a neutral meeting. Location. You may bring 2 ships as escort. Any more will be considered hostile. After the communication ended, Admiral Frank Caldwell contacted the Defiant from Earth Command. Well done, Captain, he said, his weathered face showing relief. The first test of our nanite defense system was more successful than we hoped. It was too successful, Admiral, replied Harrington. The Zagarians lost over 8,000 ships. The loss of life must have been enormous. Caldwell's expression softened slightly. War is always tragic, Captain. But remember, they came to conquer us. Your actions saved billions of human lives. Yes, sir, said Harrington. The Zagarians have requested peace talks. They seem genuinely shocked by our technology. As we expected, said Caldwell. Species that rely on brute force never understand. Species that rely on innovation. That's why we kept our nanite program secret all these years. After the Admiral's transmission ended, Captain Harrington stood alone by the viewport, looking out at the stars. The debris field that had once been. The mighty Zagarian fleet sparkled in the distance, catching light from the sun. Commander Nash joined her. Heavy thoughts, Captain? I'm thinking about how technology changes everything, she said. For centuries, military power meant having the biggest force. Now the smallest things can be the most powerful. The Zagarians will tell others about what happened here, said Nash. Good, replied Harrington. Then maybe the next alien fleet will think twice before threatening Earth. She turned from the viewport. Set course for the diplomatic coordinates. Let's see if the Zagarians are serious about peace. As the human fleet regrouped and moved toward the meeting point, news of the victory spread throughout the solar system. Humanity had faced its first major alien threat and prevailed. The message was clear to any watching eyes in the galaxy. Underestimate humans at your peril. Their tiny fleet might seem insignificant, but it carried the seeds of doom for any aggressor. The diplomatic meeting took place near the orbit of Mars. A single human ship, the UES Defiant, faced 3 Zagarian vessels. Though Captain Harrington had allowed only 2 escort ships, she chose not to mention the violation. The Zagarians needed to save face. The meeting room on the neutral space station was simple. A long table divided the room with humans on one side and Zagarians on the other. Captain Harrington led the human delegation, with Commander Nash and Lieutenant Commander Bell beside her. Across from them sat Supreme Commander Vrax, Sub-Commander Krell, and a Zagarian scientist. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, began Vrax. His voice lacked the arrogance from their first encounter. We prefer peaceful solutions, replied Harrington. We only used our weapon because you threatened our planet. Vrax nodded slowly. The Zagarian Confederation has conquered many worlds. None possess technology like yours. We underestimated your species. A common mistake, said Harrington. Humanity may be young among the stars, but we adapt quickly. The Zagarian scientist placed a container on the table. Inside was a sample of the gray dust, the remains of their ships. These nanomachines, said the scientist. How do you control them once released? Lieutenant Commander Bell answered. They respond to specific frequency patterns. We can shut them down or redirect them at any time. Impressive, admitted the scientist. Our people have never developed such technology. Different species follow different paths, said Bell. You focused on expansion and fleet size. We focused on efficiency and innovation. Vrax leaned forward. What do you want from this peace agreement? Simple terms, said Harrington. The Zagarian Confederation will recognize Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory. No Zagarian ships will enter our space without permission. In return, we will share some of our non-military technology and establish trade relations. And if we refuse? Asked Vrax. Commander Nash spoke for the first time. Then we keep our technology to ourselves and you leave our space immediately. But remember what happened to your fleet. Do you want to risk that again? The meeting continued for hours as they worked out details. Finally, both sides reached an agreement. They would meet again with their respective governments to finalize the peace treaty. As the Zagarians prepared to leave, Vrax approached Harrington privately. "Your nanomachines," he said quietly. "They could have destroyed our entire civilization. Why did you stop them?" Harrington looked directly into his yellow eyes. "Because genocide is not our way. We defended ourselves, nothing more." Vrax seemed to consider this. "The Zygarian way has always been complete victory or defeat. Your mercy is strange to us. Perhaps you can learn from it," suggested Harrington. After the Zagarians departed, Admiral Caldwell contacted Captain Harrington from Earth Command. "The preliminary agreement looks good," he said. "The President is pleased." "The Zagarians seem genuinely shocked by our technology," said Harrington. "I don't think they'll trouble us again." "Maybe not," said Caldwell. "But others might. That's why we're accelerating the nanite defense program. Every human ship will now carry these weapons." Back on Earth, news of the victory and pending peace agreement spread quickly. In a park in Washington, D.C., people gathered to watch a public address from the President. Among them was John Harrington, Captain Eliza Harrington's father. "Fellow citizens," said the President on the large screens, "today marks a historic moment for humanity. We have faced our first major extraterrestrial threat and prevailed. The courage of our fleet personnel and the brilliance of our scientists have saved Earth from potential invasion." John listened with pride, knowing his daughter had led the defense. Next to him, a young boy tugged at his sleeve. "Sir, is it true that just 50 ships beat 10,000 alien ships?" the boy asked. John smiled. "Yes, it's true. But it wasn't the ships that won the battle. It was the ideas inside them." The boy looked confused. "I don't understand." "The aliens thought bigger, meant better," explained John. "They counted their ships and thought they would win. But humans put their faith in innovation, not numbers." In the depths of space, Supreme Commander Vrax reported to the Zygarian High Council via secure transmission. "The humans possess technology beyond our understanding," he told the 9 ancient Zygarians who ruled their civilization. "Their nanomachines could have destroyed our entire fleet. They chose to stop." "Mercy is weakness," hissed one council member. "No," replied Vrax firmly. "I have seen their weapon in action. Their mercy was a choice, not weakness. They could have killed us all." Another council member spoke. "These humans concern me. If their fleet grows to match ours while keeping this technology, then they would be unstoppable," finished Vrax. "Which is why I recommend we honor this peace treaty completely. The humans do not seek conquest as we do. They only want to protect their worlds." "You sound as if you admire them," accused a third council member. "I respect them," corrected Vrax. "They defeated the largest battle fleet in Zygarian history, with just 50 ships. Only fools would not respect such power." The council debated long into the night. Eventually, they approved the preliminary peace treaty. The Zygarian Confederation would recognize human space and establish diplomatic relations. On the UES Defiant, now returning to Earth, Captain Harrington recorded her personal log in her private quarters. "The nanite defense system exceeded all expectations," she spoke quietly. "Perhaps too well. The level of destruction was greater than we intended. But the message has been sent to the galaxy. Humanity will defend itself with overwhelming force if necessary." She paused, looking at a picture of her father on her desk. "Dad always said that true strength isn't about size or numbers. It's about innovation and courage. Today proved him right." Commander Nash's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, we're approaching Earth. Admiral Caldwell has requested you join the victory parade." Harrington sighed. "Inform the Admiral I'll be there." Harrington out. She stood and straightened her uniform. A parade seemed excessive for what had been essentially a terrible loss of life. But she understood the need for celebration. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. People needed to process that through ceremony. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, Harrington reflected on what the future might hold. The galaxy now knew about humanity's nanite weapons. Some species would seek peace, as the Zygarians had. Others might try to develop similar technology or find countermeasures. The age of innocence was over for humanity. They had announced their presence to the stars not as explorers but as warriors. Harrington hoped they would soon be able to return to exploration and discovery, but first, they needed to secure their place among the stars. The tiny human fleet had proven its worth. No one would mock it again. 6 months passed since the battle with the Zygarian fleet. Earth had changed. Space defense became the top priority for every nation. The United Earth Defense Force grew rapidly, though still focusing on quality over quantity. Captain Eliza Harrington stood in a large conference room at UEDF headquarters in Geneva. The walls displayed star maps showing known alien civilizations. In the center of the room, a hologram showed Earth's solar system with small dots representing the growing human fleet. Admiral Caldwell entered, followed by Director Wells and several government officials. "Captain Harrington," said the Admiral, "thank you for coming. As the hero of the Zygarian conflict, your input is valuable for our next steps." Harrington nodded politely. She disliked being called a hero. "Thank you, Admiral. How can I help?" "The peace treaty with the Zygarians is working well," said Caldwell. "But intelligence reports suggest other alien civilizations are concerned about our nanite technology." Director Wells stepped forward. "Some species are trying to develop countermeasures. Others are seeking alliances with us. And some," added Caldwell, "might be planning preemptive strikes before we grow stronger." A government official spoke up. "The President believes we need to send a clear message to potential aggressors. Not a threat, but a demonstration of our resolve." "What kind of demonstration?" asked Harrington, feeling uneasy. "A diplomatic tour," replied Caldwell. "The Defiant will visit key systems in our sector, showing our flag and our technology." "A show of force," said Harrington flatly. "A deterrent," corrected the official. "Peace through strength." Later that day, Harrington met with Commander Nash in the officers' lounge overlooking Lake Geneva. The sunset painted the water orange and gold. "They're militarizing our discovery," said Harrington, staring at the lake. "The nanites were created to protect Earth, not to intimidate other species." "That's politics," replied Nash. "You showed the galaxy that humanity isn't weak. Now the politicians want to use that reputation. Is that why we went to space? To frighten others with our weapons?" Nash sipped his coffee. "We went to space to explore. But exploration is dangerous. We need to protect ourselves." "There's a difference between protection and intimidation," said Harrington. "True," agreed Nash. "But after the Zygarians, every species is watching us. What we do next will shape how they see humanity for generations." Across the galaxy, the Zygarian Confederation was changing too. Supreme Commander Vrax had been promoted to the High Council, replacing one of the ancient members who had opposed the peace treaty. In the Grand Council chamber on the Zygarian homeworld, Vrax addressed his fellow council members. "For millennia, our policy has been expansion through conquest. This has served us well against lesser species. But the humans have shown us the limits of this approach." "You suggest we abandon our ways because of one defeat?" asked an older council member. "I suggest we adapt," replied Vrax. "The humans defeated us not through superior numbers, but through superior innovation. We must learn from them." "Learn from primitives?" scoffed another council member. Vrax's voice hardened. "Those primitives destroyed 8,000 of our ships with just 50 of theirs. Their nanite technology could have wiped out our entire civilization. Only a fool would not learn from such an enemy. Or such a potential ally," added Sub-Commander Krell, now Vrax's chief advisor. The council debated long into the night. Eventually, they approved a new policy. The Zygarian Confederation would focus on technological development rather than conquest, at least for now. They would honor the peace treaty with humans and even propose scientific exchanges. Back on Earth, Captain Harrington prepared the Defiant for its diplomatic mission. The ship had been repaired and upgraded. New crew members replaced those lost in the battle. Lieutenant Commander Bell approached her on the bridge. "Captain, we've received the diplomatic itinerary. We'll visit 12 systems in 6 months." "And the nanite demonstration protocols?" asked Harrington. "Minimal displays only," replied Bell. "Enough to show the technology without revealing its full capabilities." Harrington nodded. "Good. I want to be diplomats, not bullies." The night before departure, Harrington visited her father at his home in Virginia. They sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the garden. "I'm proud of you, Eliza," said John Harrington. "You saved Earth." "Did I?" she asked quietly. "Or did I just make humanity feared throughout the galaxy?" Her father considered this. "There's an old saying, it's better to be respected than feared, but it's better to be feared than loved." "I don't want other species to fear us," said Eliza. "Maybe not," replied her father. "But fear might keep them from attacking us until they learn to respect us. You've bought humanity time to grow into its role in the galaxy." The next morning, the UES Defiant departed Earth orbit. Its mission had changed from defense to diplomacy, though the line between the two had blurred. As the ship accelerated toward its first destination, Captain Harrington recorded a message for UEDF Command. "As we embark on this diplomatic tour, we must remember what truly protected Earth. It wasn't just our nanite technology, it was our ingenuity, our ability to think differently than the Zagarians. We won because we understood them better than they understood us." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "The galaxy now knows about our tiny fleet and what it can do. But rather than use that fear to dominate, we should use this opportunity to build understanding. The nanites can break down matter, but they can also create new structures. Just as our technology can destroy, it can also build. That is the message I intend to share with the species we meet." In the months that followed, the Defiant visited worlds throughout the sector. On each planet, Captain Harrington and her crew showed not just the destructive power of nanite technology, but also its potential for construction, medicine, and environmental restoration. Some species remained wary of humans. Others sought alliances and trade agreements. A few even requested help developing their own nanite technology, which Earth carefully declined to provide. 1 year after the battle with the Zygarians, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered on a neutral space station for the first Galactic Cooperative Summit. Captain Harrington attended alongside Earth's diplomatic team. Supreme Commander Vrax, now Council Elder Vrax, represented the Zygarian Confederation. When he saw Harrington, he approached her. "Captain Harrington," he said with a formal bow, "my people have a saying, to meet in battle is to know another's soul. We have learned much about humans since our encounter." "As we have learned about Zygarians," replied Harrington. "My people once measured strength by the size of a fleet," said Vrax. "You taught us that true strength lies in innovation and restraint. And you taught us the importance of making our voice heard in the galaxy," acknowledged Harrington. Together they walked into the summit chamber where the future of interstellar relations would be shaped. Humanity's journey among the stars had begun with conflict, but perhaps it could continue with cooperation. The tiny human fleet had proven its worth in battle. Now it would prove its worth in peace.